This video is supported in part by Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions. If you enjoy the never-ending story and Masters of the Universe, this new novel coming fall 2022 is right up your alley. I was just hanging out here in the studio talking with Genny about the Atari 50th anniversary, and there was a bit of confusion between us. She didn't realize that not only are we in the midst of a celebration called the Atari 50th Anniversary Celebration, but there's a piece of software on its way out later this year called Atari 50th The Anniversary Celebration. The two may not be obvious to you like they weren't to her, and she's a super fan. So in this video, I'm going to run down for you everything we know so far about the Atari 50th The Anniversary Celebration software release headed to your computer and console a little later this year. Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I'm John, and I am a GenXGrownUp. If you're anything at all like Genny, who is a super fan in her own right of Atari, you may not be very clear on exactly what's happening here either. I know I wasn't at first, so let's run it all down. Yes, we are in the midst of the 50th anniversary of Atari. That's the time of the year, the epoch that we're living in. But in addition to the Atari 50th anniversary celebration, the thing that's happening, there's also a piece of software coming out shortly for the Switch, the Atari VCS, the PlayStation, the PC, Xbox, everything, a little bit later in 2022, and that's called Atari 50th The Anniversary Celebration. Let me start by running down the key components of this Atari 50th Anniversary software release. I don't want to call it a game or an application, or I guess it is an application, because it's more than just one game, more than just one thing. It's not just a bundle of software put together. It is really a celebration of the timeline of Atari over the past 50 years. And in fact, the way you interact with this software is on a timeline. You can see I've culled together from screenshots and press kits and screenshots I can find online and Atari's own video, and looked at all the pieces they're talking about to kind of dig a little deeper. You can see from many of these that the parts of Atari are broken up into kind of the arcade era and then later home consoles that include the 2600, the 5200, the 7800, later the Jaguar. They even talk about the Atari 8-bit computers, of which I was a huge fan, and the Atari Lynx, that beautiful handheld that didn't get its fair shake back when it was head-to-head against the Game Boy. So when you fire up the anniversary celebration, what you'll be able to do is start diving into this timeline and looking at kind of the legacy of Atari from their origins near 50 years ago now to today. But rather than just being a history lesson, this is an interactive timeline. You can even see in some of the screenshots, it shows progress, like how much have you explored in this little area of the software. As you go through the times, you're going to be able to open games and play them directly. So maybe you'll read about Centipede, you'll look at a Centipede flyer or some art or some production stills, and then you can jump in and play the game. And in many cases, you should be able to jump into video that was recorded with people that know about the Atari history, whether that be executives or developers or just people in the software and gaming industry that have commentary on the legacy of Atari. So as you explore this interactive timeline, you uncover more and more material and more stuff becomes available to you. They say that as you explore, you'll even unlock some hidden things like unreleased games or unfinished games. Now, all of that, interesting, fascinating, the history of Atari, but Atari is about the games, and they've packed a lot of games in here from all the platforms I mentioned, spanning from the arcade up to the Jaguar and the Lynx and the computers. They advertise that 90 plus games will be available and playable inside this package via emulation, as you might imagine. What's perhaps the most interesting, though, is that there are 6 new games created just specifically for this anniversary collection that are available to unlock in the package. And I want to run down them because some of them are promising, some of them are concerning. Yeah, anyway, let's get started with maybe the biggest shocker of all, and that's Swordquest Airworld. Swordquest was this series of games you could compete in conjunction with a comic book. If you could solve the game, you sent off your solution to Atari. They shipped people off to California to compete in a big competition, ultimately supposed to give away treasures and chalices and swords. Well, that all dried up around 83, 84 when the software crash happened, and the 4th game in the series, Airworld, never happened. Well, they've actually created an Airworld now. Now, is it going to have the companion comic book? How are you going to play it? It's not a 2600 game specifically. You can see from this screenshot that it's well beyond the capacities of the 2600, but it's interesting that they're going back and finishing that series that otherwise had just been left dangling. The second one is one that I'm really excited about. It's based on the tank portion of combat, and it's called Quadratanks. If you had an Atari, you know that Tanks was packed with the game, and it was probably the game you played the most with your friends or your family. This is taking those original Tank games and updating them for the modern time. Quadratank suggests that you have 4 players simultaneously. You can be either competitive or free-for-all, and you can see from some of these screenshots and stills that there are obstacles and boxes to break and maybe power-ups inside of them. Tanks is just a fun game. It always has been, and to update it and bring it maybe some multiplayer, maybe some online multiplayer, maybe? Who knows? The third one is also based on an Atari 2600 cartridge, Haunted House. This is called Haunted Houses. Just a few images of this have been released so far, but it appears to be kind of a over-the-shoulder or behind the eyeballs, whatever kind of view of exploring a haunted house like you did in the Atari game, Haunted House. There's not a lot more about this one, but I'm keeping an open mind. That was a fun game when I was a kid, and maybe they can update it and make it fun for a whole new generation. That would be cool. The third game I want to talk about is kind of oddly named. It looks like it's pronounced Vector Sector. It's VCTR-SCTR anyway. The idea is it's a mashup of all the Atari Vector games, like you have your Asteroids and your Tempest and your Space Duel and stuff like that. Well, this is kind of taking all those together. Maybe it's a mini game, maybe it's a combo. You can see in some of the screenshots that you kind of an asteroid ship that's shooting at Tempest enemies on a kind of 3/4 view. At any rate, this seems like a welcome addition and a way to celebrate that myriad of Vector games and kind of mash them up into something new. I'm on board with that. The fifth one I want to talk about is called Neo Breakout. Now, Breakout itself is probably in the package somewhere. I'm guessing Pong is as well. This is kind of touted as a mashup of those two games, Pong and Breakout. And you can see by looking at some of these stills and snippets of video I was able to salvage that it appears to be an end-on-end breakout like Pong would be on the sides, but you're moving the bricks back and forth, almost like a tug of war. Someone has the advantage and someone has the disadvantage. That's a neat idea, and frankly, I'm surprised nobody's done that before. I mean, maybe somebody has, and I just haven't seen it before, but Neo Breakout, that looks like something I really do want to play. It should be a lot of fun multiplayer. The last one I want to mention is a bit of a bummer, a concern for me. I did a video not long ago about the fact that it was announced Howard Scott Warshaw is involved in a sequel to Yars' Revenge. I'll throw a link up there if you didn't see that one. There was almost no information, and this video from Atari came out a couple days later that makes me concerned about the sequel for Yars' Revenge. In this package, it's called Yars' Revenge Reimagined. And it has some great looking visuals that look very much true to the original Yars' Revenge. The piece that bugs me in the copy says that at any time you can toggle between the old graphics and the new graphics. That just sounds to me like it's a reskinning of Yars' Revenge with no new gameplay. How is that a sequel when you just update the assets and make it 3D and add some backgrounds? I was really hoping that there was a Yars' Revenge sequel as advertised, as I saw in those articles. If this is that, this may be very disappointing for Yars' Revenge fans. Maybe this is just something and the Yars' Revenge sequel is still coming later. I hope, but I'm not banking on it. I'm concerned that this may be the Yars' Revenge sequel that was rumored, and that's all it's gonna be. Setting aside my revenge about that Yars' Revenge sequel just being a reskin, I think there's a lot to be excited about in this Atari 50th The Anniversary Celebration software package, interactive timeline, video bundle game thing, whatever it is that you want to call it. It's coming out winter of 2022, so probably a few weeks or months away. I'll keep my eye on the news as it progresses. Was this something you were aware of, or like Genny, were you a little confused about what was going on in the world of Atari? I love checking up on this stuff as a super fan. If you're also a fan of Atari, I invite you to check out this playlist that's all things Atari. We love Atari here at GenXGrownUp, and it shows in our collection of videos in the back catalog. Hey, I really hope you found something to enjoy in this video though, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.